Hello one and all, my name is Sam. You join me in Paris for the launch of the Infinity Project Black S. It's an incredibly exciting event that you are joining us on. The Project Black S is a direct result of Infinity's technical partnership with the Renault Formula One team, and I am joined by Tommaso Volpe, who is the Director of Global Motorsport at Infinity, and you can tell me a little bit more about what that means. What is that partnership that you have with the Renault F1 team?
Yeah, the partnership we have with Renault Sport Formula One team is a very strategic one for us. It's based on three main projects. We are a technical partner, first of all, so we have a very heavy technical involvement with the car. It starts with the development of the performance hybrid technology inside the car, which is co-developed by Infinity together with Renault in Viry-Châtillon in France. Then we have an academy that we call the Infinity Engineering Academy, where we look for very highly talented engineering students every year, and we recruit them from basically every country where Infinity operates, and we recruit 7 of them from 7 areas, which are Asia Pacific, China, Europe, Middle East, Mexico, US, and Canada. And finally, today, one of the most exciting projects for the whole company is the unveiling of the Project Black S. The Project Black S is basically the application to our coupe Infinity Q60 of the performance hybrid technology coming from Formula One. So we have developed a very similar system, dual performance hybrid system, inspired and developed by the same people who did it for the Formula One car into our Infinity Q60.
And is this the first time that we're going to see that sort of Formula One technology and learnings in a road car, or in an Infinity road car at least?
Yes, it's correct. The traditional hybrid technology in homologated vehicles is a single system, so it recovers energy only from the kinetic of the braking, the kinetic energy from braking. What is very unique in Formula One is that the hybrid is a dual system, so it recovers while braking and while accelerating, because it recovers also the heat from the turbine, the exhaust heat going through the turbine. And this is what we did for the Black S. So it's a dual system recovering energy while braking and while accelerating. This is pretty much unique. And it's very unique also that we did it on an existing vehicles, because there are other experience from prototyping this technology on homologated cars, but starting from scratch. What we did, we started from an existing vehicle that was developed by Infinity without having in mind at the time the possibility to implement such an intrusive technology, and we took this daring decision to do it together with our partner in Formula One, and today we are unveiling the prototype.
Now, I'm a massive Formula One fan, and I hear a lot of the times commentators and drivers and team principals talking about how complicated these systems are. And actually, let's walk around this beautiful Formula One car that we have on display at tonight's event, because actually this side of the car we have a sort of cutaway, a display of some of the systems in place. Can you kind of explain just a little bit more about what we're looking at?
Well, this fantastic piece of technology, which is almost a piece of art, is very complex, as you correctly said, because first of all, in Formula One they downsized the internal combustion engine to an only 1.6 liter V6, but then they had two motor generated units. One kinetic that recovers energy while braking, the other one heat, recovering energy from the gases of the exhaust. Then there is a battery, obviously there are inverters, and there is a huge battery keeping the energy before the acceleration, and the control unit. The control unit is very important. It's a small computer that actually manages the energy that comes from the two motors, because it's such a big amount of energy that it can be utilized in different ways with different setups during racing, very different from qualifying, for instance, and during racing. And the same complication we replicated in Black S, with the difference actually that because we have a B-turbo V6 powertrain in the Black S, which comes from our Q60, we have two motors connected to the turbines. So at the end we have 3 motors, one which is the kinetic one, and 2 MGU-H instead of one like in Formula One. So the control unit that we also replicated in the Black S is actually doing a job which is quite complex in coordinating these 3 sources of energy and defining when to utilize this extra energy for extra torque during the acceleration.
It'd be great for the camera to have a look at the cutaway that we're seeing here. It's obviously a beautifully integrated into these Formula One cars, but how hard is it to integrate into a road car, and as you say, a road car that wasn't designed to have this kind of technology?
Well, first of all, it's not that we apply the same parts, obviously. We design the system in the same way, with the same approach, the same philosophy, and more importantly, with the same people. So this is the main thing. It's very difficult to do it on an existing product, as I said before, because it's very intrusive. So the moment you include these parts, you are revolutionizing the car. The chassis is not designed for this. The weight distribution changes. There is no, for instance, for the e-turbos, for the MGUH in the front, there was physically not the space to put them, and everything is changed. So every little bit you change in the car has consequences basically to the rest of the car. We had to change also the body to make the car performing better with this extra power coming from the system. And the cooling also is a big challenge, because there are extra parts that need a very bespoke cooling system. So it's really, really complicated. Probably the job would have been easier if you were starting from scratch to develop a car from scratch.
I like that you've given yourself a challenge. Let's move back down towards the front of the car. Always great to get up close and personal with a Formula One car, doesn't matter sort of where you are. We can start, I suppose, to tease the actual reveal of the Project Black S, because that is coming any minute now. I suppose quite a long project for yourselves and the whole team at Infinity. What are your feelings now before it's about to be unveiled in front of this room?
We are very excited, obviously, but there is a note on what you just said. Something else we learned from Formula One, which is totally different from automotive, is the way they develop cars. It's a prototyping platform, so the process they have is very fast. So from the first day we unveiled the concept car to today, only 18 months passed. There is no way we could have done this job following our traditional process in automotive. And the car that we are unveiling was tested only digitally with simulations. It has not been on track yet, but is a running prototype. So the process we utilize is really, really similar to the Formula One approach. And we are obviously super excited to unveil it right now.
I'm incredibly excited as well. Remember to submit any questions that you guys have after the reveal is going to be taking place. I'll be speaking to one of the lead designers of the project and be asking your questions. So hold tight, the reveal is about to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Infinity Project Black S. Put your hands together one more time. It's muscular, it's menacing, in a word, magnifique. You feel that? It's your heart beating faster. Don't be alarmed. We anticipated this, it's normal. But if you get nervous, we have emergency technical medical people on site. Or just raise your hand and we'll bring you another cocktail. On behalf of Infinity Motor Company, my name's Trevor Hale. It gives me great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to the Infinity Project Black S event. We know you're busy. It's Paris Motor Show. There's a lot going on. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you spending it with us. It's such a great time to be in this industry. You heard Mr. Gone talking about the growth in the industry, electrification, startups, disruption, but really it all comes back to product. And look at this product, right? It does make your heart beat faster. It's also a great time to be in Infiniti. Look at the beautiful vehicles behind me. They make your heart beat in a slightly different way than something as menacing as the Black S. It's like walking into the Louvre when you see Prototype 10, Prototype 9, and the Q Inspiration. All of these vehicles you see behind me have something in common. They're electrified, and they represent the new design language for Infiniti. So what we've done is freed up our designers when you don't have a traditional engine, you don't have a traditional transmission, and you can do really interesting things. And look how beautiful they are. This is part of our plan of going fully electric by 2021 moving forward. If only we knew someone who knew something about electrification. Wait a second, we're part of the Alliance, who has built and sold more electric vehicles than anyone, as Mr. Gone just said. So building on that expertise, building on all that, we have a very interesting and bright future. Now, we're very proud to be the premium brand of the Alliance, and one of the more interesting relationships in the Alliance is our technical partnership with Formula One. It's much more than just a logo on a car. Although this logo looks great on this car, you have to admit. Could be a little bit bigger, Cyril, but we'll talk about that later. And within this technical partnership with Renault Formula One, we have an engineering academy. Some of the students are here tonight, especially Sally. Sally, raise your hand if you're here. Sally engineered the wing that is in the foyer. We call it the Sally Wing. She's a graduate of the program. Also, one of the more interesting aspects of what we do in this technical partnership is harnessing and managing energy. And this is a key concept of what we're talking about tonight, how we're using that technology in this vehicle. Which brings me to the point of, during this and as part of this relationship, we thought, how can we take it to the next level? How can we bring this technology to our customers? And so born was the Black S. And it's got the technology, but aesthetically, just look at it. It embodies the partnership between Infiniti and Renault. It's got this menacing matte gray, and it's got the Renault yellow signature on it. And not only does this embody this relationship, more than anything, what personifies this relationship are the two executives in charge. So it gives me great pleasure at this point to bring up the chairman and global president of Infiniti Motor Company, Mr. Roland Kruger, as well as Jerome Stoll, the president of Renault Sport Racing. Gentlemen, please come on up.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, good afternoon or good evening and welcome to Paris. Welcome to this event, to Infiniti and Renault Sport Formula One. It's good to see you all, and as just outlined, it's a very special event for us. We, as part of the Alliance, have announced that we are going to go fully into electrification with the Infiniti brand, and the driving force and the brainchild behind the strategy of electrification for the Alliance is Mr. Gone, and you just heard in his keynote address today how far the company already is with this electrification. So we can actually benefit from the expertise and the capacity within the company to further develop us as a brand, us as Infiniti. And also as part of the Alliance, we have our partnership, as just outlined, with Renault Sport for Formula One. And what is important about this partnership is it's a technical partnership. And that technical partnership has engineers working side by side, engineers from Infiniti, engineers from Renault working side by side, developing the energy recovery system for the Formula One car. And out of this technical partnership, we got together and said, what can we do more with this kind of expertise? So in 2017, in Geneva, we showed a concept car, the Black S, and this was more or less the teaser this was the beginning of this project as we see it in front of us right now. And then from there, the momentum picked up. We got the momentum within the company. We got the momentum within the team. And the team developed some ideas how to make that project come to life. And so today we're very proud that we have the car in front of us. It's a running prototype. And you heard already the sound. It's quite interesting. But some of the things that are important for us is it is a true Infinity. It's a performance car. It will have more than 550 horsepower with electrification. And it presents part of the spectrum of full electrification. You have battery electric vehicles on one side, and you have also hybrid electric vehicles on the other side, and the performance that comes with it. And that is really the embodiment of this partnership, and the embodiment is within the project. So again, there's much, much more to talk about, and I could go on forever because it's such a great project. But I'd like to hand over to Jérôme to share with us a little bit how this came alive and what is the contribution of Formula One into this project, into the car, because it's one of a kind. It's kind of a project that was never done before this way, and maybe you can share with us a little bit how this went.
Yeah, thank you, Laurent. I'm more than happy to be here and to take part of this to this event. It's obviously a great event, and it came with Cyril Abitbol and Naoki. Cyril is running the competition within Renault Sport Racing, and Naoki was a project leader on this specific cooperation. And it's amazing and incredible cooperation, a very ambitious one. Obviously, Renault, you know that, has been involved in Formula One for more than 40 years and permanently bringing to the track innovation, starting from 1976. You remember the turbo. We were the first one to bring turbo in the Formula One in a car, and this has changed completely the performance of the product. And today, as you know, the car that we are running on the track are hybrid car with an ERS, and it was obvious that at the time that Roland defined a strategy which is a daring electrification, high-performance future with hybrid electrification and hybrid in his car. It was obvious that we should cooperate, and we have defined this project and this cooperation, and eventually you can see the result, the outcome of this work, this common work. So, Formula One is a specific field of development, as you know, and it's the first time that one company can bring this technology, the Formula One technology, to a car, a premium car on the road. So what has been our contribution? Basically, obviously, you will understand that the ERS was what was expected to increase the performance of this car. So engine recovery system with the dual hybrid MGUH, MGUK, which is now integrated, and it was packaging, control, obviously the energy management, which is a key issue in Formula One, which has been introduced in this Black S project. But on the top of this powertrain cooperation that we brought, in Formula One, you know that the performance comes also from the aerodynamics. So we brought also our performance regarding the development of this product as far as the aero is concerned, how we could improve the cooling system through better aero, how we could improve the downforce of the car through the rear ring that you can see behind. So a lot of work has been done in cooperation. I could add break in wine, you know, all the stuff that on which we worked as well. But on the top of that, what I wanted to say is what this project, what we learned and what we could, what was our contribution to this project also is the F1 spirit. Because the F1 spirit, you know, everything is around speed. Speed on the track, for sure, but speed on the development as well. And here again, we have been capable, we have been able together to develop this car in a very, very, very short time, which is an amazing performance. And I think that is also something that F1 and Renault Sport Racing could bring to this project.
So maybe this is a very important part of the project. Maybe a little bit more elaborate on the spirit and the team spirit. Maybe you share a little bit on how this came about, because part of the Infinity drive for electrification, we also came up with a program of an engineering academy. We came up with a program of sponsoring startups. You heard today Mr. Gon also talking about startups. So maybe you can share with us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I think
teamwork.
that is a joint project between Infinity and Renault Sport Racing, and we offer the possibility also to young engineers to become to be involved through this academy and grow within this organization and to learn a lot from this development. I think that obviously for the development of this car, it needs we have together to keep in mind that Formula One is also regulated by plenty of rules, and these rules are not the ones that are implemented on the road. So in order to bring this technology in this car, we had some much more freedom sometimes and much more constraints some of the time. For instance, a driver of this car needs to have this car with the reliability, with the duration, which has nothing to do with this product. So obviously, this cooperation between the team of Infinity and the team of Renault Sport Racing allow us to perform better. And I think that we learn, both of us, a lot. I mean, as far as we are concerned, we show that the F1 technology can be deployed for premium car on the road, and this is very much important because we expect at Renault Sport Racing to offer this kind of opportunity for a new project within the alliance, because at the end of the day, it's the result is an alliance project.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I have a couple of questions,
Yeah.
and then we'll stop. We'll get some of our experts out here, and we can do individual interviews in a more casual environment. You just heard Mr. Gon talking about startup spirit and entrepreneurial spirit, how we try to bring that to our operations. And as leaders, I would ask you both how you bring that to both Renault Sport Racing and Infinity.
Yeah, we've started an initiative which is called the Infinity Lab about 3 years ago, where we invite startups who present themselves into a competition, and then we select them to come to our premises, and we help them within 3 months to develop their ideas into a marketable concept. And we also help them then to present their ideas to possible investors. And some of these ideas also then come to our business. They can enhance our business or our business unit. But what is important with this is we coach those startups. And within the coaching process, you have managers within the company also being exposed to that kind of thinking. Something that Jerome just mentioned. You have to transfer something from the racetrack into a road car. There needs to be a different thinking. You have normal processes within a larger company. This is a smaller, more agile team, so there's a different thinking behind it. So that kind of spirit, we want to translate and bring that back to the company. And at the same time, we started an engineering academy together with Renault Formula One Sports, and that helps new and upcoming engineers to apply with us. We select the best ones, and they get a chance to work together with the team and develop some of these technologies. So it is more or less a core of the development of our business going forward, and a core of the development of new ideas and new people that come to us, people who are interested to work with us, and it has been very, very successful. To some extent, the whole idea and the whole spirit you can see in front of you with a black S.
Just in a few words, to be short on this specific aspect, I think that Formula One requires permanent reactivity, to be quick to react, to be fast in the development, etc. And I think that in the world that has been described and discussed with Carlos Ghosn earlier in the afternoon, you see that the world is changing so quickly that we have to be prepared to react permanently. And I think that just to answer your question regarding the management, we learn a lot from, and we can bring to our own organization, the traditional organization, what is absolutely mandatory in the Formula One. I mean, be quick to react, to fix, and to develop at the end of the day in an amazing time this kind of product.
Thank you for that. Selfishly, when can I have this as a press car? Meaning, when are we going to produce it?
Okay, so I've had this question a few times, so you see me smiling. Well, the first one put his hands up is, of course, me. But to be fair, give us a little bit of time. We will have this car on the track by the end of the year. As Jerome said, the development process was very fast. This car, as you see it here, took 12 months, which is a record time within the car industry to have it as a running prototype. We will go on track by the end of the year. We will also have a special event where we will invite some of the media to actually witness the track drive in the beginning of next year. And then you have to give us a bit of time for some surprises on the announcement. But we're very confident on the technology. We're very confident on the car. And as I said, you see me smiling. I put up the hand. I'm definitely one of the first ones that's up for this car.
I think we'll have a lot of interest. So, final question before we open it up. Where does this fit in the Infinity portfolio?
Yeah, again, we have announced that from 2021 onwards, all new vehicles that come to the market will be electrified, either purely battery electric vehicles or hybrid electric vehicles with certain technologies. And there's a range. You have a range of vehicles that is a pure battery vehicle for different use cases. And obviously you have the top range with a performance car, which is the energy recuperation system that you have from Formula One translated into a top performance car. So it represents the other bookend of the electrification. So it very well fits into this. And the very special part about this car obviously is it's a normal road car that you can buy and that we translated the Formula One technology into, and it will be a roadworthy car that's ready for the track. So it's that bookend and, of course, the battery electric vehicle. So it fits very well into our strategy. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, gentlemen. As I said, we'll do informal interviews here shortly. If I could ask both of you for a quick photo call, and then I'm going to introduce some of the other experts in the room.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. No?
Okay. And we'll open up the car in just a second, guys. So just give us 1 second here for a quick photo. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce some of the experts here in the room. Francois Bancon, raise your hand. He needs no introduction. Infinity VP who helped with this vehicle. Cyril Abiboul, Cyril, Principal, Renault Sport F1, thank you for being here. Naoki-san, he's the architect of this vehicle. Thank you for being here. Where's Naoki-san? Right there. He knows everything. He knows too much about this vehicle. Keep him away from the media. I'm kidding. Tommaso is our head of motorsports at Infinity, also knows too much. Let's get these guys in the back. Alfonso Albeza needs no introduction. Our head of global design for Nissan Motor Company. Karim Habib, Executive Director of Design for Infinity. The Silver Fox, Matt Weaver, finally, last but not least, who had a huge hand in this car. So they're scattered about the room. We're going to open up the car. Thank you for coming. Enjoy yourself and have a great Paris Motor Show. Thank you very much.
D'accord, ouais.
Thank you. Roughly. Well, there we go, the Project Black S. I hope you are all as blown away as I am. I'm now joined by the designer, Matt Weaver, and I have to say congratulations on what I think is a stunning creation. What are your immediate feelings now that the car's been unveiled officially?
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, super excited. It's gone from a sort of design study to a full working prototype. And, you know, in terms of design, when you add that kind of genuine aspect to a car like this, it's as dramatic as this, it's really, for us, you know, a great achievement, a great level. And a really nice fluid working technique with Renault Motorsport as well. Formula One team, that's a unique experience. Something we don't get to do very often with design, to be honest.
Now we're getting surrounded a little bit here because, as you can imagine, everyone is dying to get pictures and get up close with the car. Something I wanted to talk about first is that I actually saw the sort of initial concept, I guess, last year at Geneva. This car is very similar, if not, as we were just discussing off camera, better visually. What have you sort of had to concede on? What did you have to change from that sort of initial design to what we're looking at today?
So it's a really interesting word, concede. In a normal design process, concede is a good word because we would have restrictions on production or safety. Actually, working with the engineers on pure engineering and performance, I would say they enhanced the design. So actually, when we thought we were extreme last time, we were asked to actually re-evaluate. We've had to go through a lot of testing, CFD testing, aerodynamic testing, cooling, dynamics handling. And actually, it's made the car even more extreme. For example, there's more cooling on the front, there's more downforce on the rear wing. So the car's actually been enhanced by the engineering process. So yeah, it's really something quite special. And I should say, some of the elements are actually directly from Renault Formula One. For example, the rear cord on the rear wing is from the Monza low downforce wing. So we've adapted that with those guys onto this car. They've tested it with us. We've come back. At one point, there was so much downforce on the car, it probably wouldn't move. So we're bouncing things around, and now the car's set up pretty well. So yeah.
As a Formula One nerd, that's one of the most exciting things I've ever heard, that it's actually got a rear wing. I'm going to be careful not to trip over people here. As I'd love you to come and talk around the car in a little bit more detail. Now, remember, guys, we want to hear from you. We want to know your questions. Any questions you have for Matt about the car, please comment below and let us know, and we'll try and get through some of those. Now, as a designer, when you're working on such a ambitious project as this, how much are you going for aesthetics? How much are you going for performance? And, as you said, cooling. Talk us around the front design, for example.
Well, probably like me, Sam, you know, for me, motorsport aesthetic is its own aesthetic. So, ironically, a lot of the breakthroughs with the first design study, where we had to it was Project Black S. So we were with the guys working on the packaging, the rough sort of layout of the cars. In terms of this car, we've got this super aggressive front. We've actually increased the air intake down here, so it's ramming air into the coolers. This is an extremely interesting part here up on the hood. Normally we would have perhaps mesh or something like this, but we have a rad core element, which is carbon fibre. We have so much heat coming from the turbos that we have to release the heat through what's called underhood cooling. So it comes out through these elements, and these are a direct visual link to Formula One wings, these kind of dividers and splitters, which you see on the rear wing as well. So we've tried to keep the aesthetic around the car. What's really interesting is we have this beautiful sculptural shape on the exterior, which is Q60 Red S, fundamentally. But what we wanted to do is get underneath the car. It feels like a Formula One car, which it is in certain aspects. The technology is obviously directly related. The materials we're using, obviously, it's lightweight carbon fibre. Some is at race spec, some is at show spec. So the car is almost like two cars. There's a contrast of the exterior beautiful form and this machine kind of menacing creature that's underneath.
I have to say this is an incredibly cool feature. I hadn't noticed it stood far away, but up close personal, these elements, as you say, very reminiscent of a Formula One front wing, and something cool that I guess it's only those who get up close to the car will notice.
I should say as well, the panels we've redone in carbon. So before obviously they're metal, we've the spider underneath, which is the structure you have underneath the skin, we've done in carbon, and we've reduced the thickness. So obviously we have weight saving. The engine's got slightly larger in places, so we've had to compensate for that in the package. So actually what's driving the form is a lot of these requirements around the engine bay or the transmission. So one thing's leading on to another.
We're going to attempt to move our way further down the car. I say we're going to be fighting against a lot of the press and journalists who are here also looking at it. Has anything radically changed in terms of sort of wheelbase length or anything that's sort of completely changed it from a standard Q60, or is it a small element?
No, I mean fundamentally wheelbase is the same. The car's obviously been lowered for handling and dynamics, and the wheels are wider and the track's wider. Which again for designers is a great thing, but fundamentally it's a Q60. The Black S treatment, if you like, with Renault Motorsport is just enhancing what was already there. Interestingly, the technology is a kind of a first, particularly in a car that is already existing. It's not a ground-up car, so we're using one of our products and we're bringing in this technology, so it's quite a daring, challenging thing to do.
I'm going to try and now bring up some of the questions that you guys may be submitting on the Facebook Live. Make sure to keep submitting them, and I'll try and ask as many of them as I can to Matt, as long as my Face ID works. But tell us, we heard briefly from those speaking on stage about when we can expect to see this car out and about. I heard that maybe the on-track debut might be coming later in this year. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, sure. So Project Black S means it's an ongoing project. The car has been validated in many ways on dyno testing, obviously the drivetrain. So it's about halfway through its development program. This is obviously a full running car, there'll be another one. And it will probably be going on track for proper shakedown, turning wheels in anger towards the end of this year. So the project is ongoing.
Darren Borsos has asked, are you launching a racing car or a road car? This is a road legal car, correct?
That's the idea. Actually, that's a really good question, because if you look at the interior, maybe we can get a shot later. We've deliberately kept the road car aesthetic. I mean, Infinity's, from the alliance of the companies, is a premium product. So we wanted that feeling of a premium car rather than a stripped-out race car. So the idea is this could be the gentleman racer. It's going to be a very fast car on track, but certainly a road car as well. That would be the aim.
Let's attempt to move round to the back of the car. I think we are going to struggle, but I'm going to, as we walk, I'm going to ask you, Mark Akehurst has asked here, Renault were talking powertrain. Does that mean the transmission is also Renault Sport transmission?
So
we are fighting, but we'll try our best.
Let's go to the back.
Yeah, we'll relocate to the back, and then we can talk a little bit here, because I just want people to see just how aggressive this rear wing and diffuser is. But anyway, so the question again, sorry, Mark Akehurst was, Renault were talking powertrain. Does that mean the transmission is also Renault Sport transmission?
So the Formula One team have overhauled a lot of the existing transmission from the Red S. So we have the VR30 engine and gearbox existing, but obviously it's been uprated where they've needed to do it. We've got a lot more power running through. And to be honest, it's really a juxtaposition of these two machines, the electrification obviously coming in. So you can imagine around the car there's been substantial reworking of the Infinity base stuff with Formula One, should we say, interwoven over the top.
And so let's come back onto the design, I guess, away from the tech. I mean, the coolest thing I think you ever mentioned, that, as you said, this is a sort of Formula One rear wing. I've made me want the car even more. But as a designer, do you take a lot of enjoyment and excitement out of sort of Formula One and those inspirations, and how you can then translate that onto on a car like this?
Oh, absolutely. You know, perhaps there's a preconception that designers are perhaps all thinking in the clouds and love art. You know, I love Formula One. I like drinking beer with my friends and watching Formula One. We talk motorsport, rally, we talk all these things. We love it. So for me, this is a kind of dream project. You know, take already a beautiful coupe, and if you like, work with the guys that we watch on TV. It's been just great, fantastic. So.
I think it would be a perfect car for Batman to be driving in any of his adventures, for sure. But yeah, no, it's absolutely stunning to see it now in person. I'm going to ask you a slightly tricky question, which is, was there anything which you would love to have had on the car from a design aesthetic point of view, which because of the engineering and the ambitions of the project, you couldn't?
It's a good question. I'm not just saying this, no. I think it's partly because as well the car is quite bespoke at the moment, so it's allowed the freedom. I think the engineers have had the freedom as much of designers. So between us, no, I'm very happy with the car. I have to say, I want to point out while we're here, because we haven't got much space. This is my favourite part of the car, which is what we would normally call the rear diffuser. It's a rear diffuser. But what I love on cars like this is the form and function. So this part does many different jobs in one go. We have cooling on the rear diff, so we have an electric motor that is evacuating hot air out from the rear diff.
Come round. We'll just have you stand in front of the diff, and you can explain it as you're going.
All the hot air coming from the rear diff out here. It's obviously guiding the air from underneath the car, and it's also holding these printed titanium exhaust tips, which were made by Renault F1, and they get super hot. So this one part is doing a combination of 3 or 4 jobs at one time, and for me, I love that, and that's really form and function working together.
The presence of the rear end is pretty fantastic. I'm going to try and just bring up a few more of your questions that you're submitting here on Facebook. I'm being barged out of the way after a very keen journalist. Here we go. So, Chris O'Neill, how much will the regen interfere with the braking system? Do you think the driver will feel it through the pedal, or what will be happening there? I know that's more of an engineer question.
It is an engineering question, unfortunately, I can't answer. And I haven't driven the car, unfortunately, so I'm trying to get in the queue for later on.
I think we'll
let him know if we talk.
We're all trying to get into the queue. Again, we've got another engineering question about what sort of brakes are on the car. We'll keep trying to track down some of the engineers involved. You may have heard earlier during the live presentation some more information on that. One question I have, in terms of spec, we've obviously seen the car here in a sort of stunning satin blacky grey. Do you envisage lots of colourful cars coming out? Do you want to opt for all that kind of thing, so you're not quite there yet in terms of what's going to be available for customers?
I think whenever we do a car, particularly a specialist car, we have a kind of launch colour, if you like, which perhaps sells the car at its best. Black S. So I mean, and we know it's quite a menacing car. It has this kind of omnipresence, if you like, in the room. So the car's befitting of it. It's a colour that we've developed actually in Infinity for other prototype cars. I would imagine also, though, that there'd be a kind of request from potential buyers that perhaps want something a little bit more noticeable on track. I could imagine some quite striking graphics and body colours for sure.
It does look fantastic in this colour. And then also I wanted to ask is that where does this take Infinity in the future? Do you expect to see some of these elements on other Infinity road cars?
Yes, I mean, Black S is a mark that we're looking at as a level of one of our top sort of performance lines, if you like. Specifically with this, these are tailored elements just for this car. So perhaps more in materials, perhaps on the interior where we're using carbon fibre, but laser etching is now very prevalent inside this interior. It's super nice. So some of these techniques we'll carry on using, I think, in other concepts and cars. As for this car, I think it's very specific for Black S. It's very performance driven.
Fantastic. I'm going to do one final check for some Facebook questions from you guys before we let you crack on and speak to lots of other people here. I'm sure I have many more questions for you. So one check here. Do we know the overall weight of the vehicle yet? I mean, you mentioned some of the carbon fibre parts. This is Michael Kuhlman has been asking this. How much have you sort of replaced in terms of body parts with carbon fibre?
So actual overall weight figure, I can't tell you, partly because we're still refining. Yes, we have replaced a lot. As I mentioned, the hood was carbon fibre. The spider underneath was carbon fibre. The roof is carbon fibre. The rear tailgate's carbon fibre. The bumpers are carbon fibre. And the front fenders are carbon fibre. We've also taken out the rear bench seats, so perhaps if you get to look at the interior in a minute, partly to house battery and inverters. There's a lot of technology gone in there. We've tried to keep the weight in between the wheels and the axles, trying to neutralise any weight deficiencies. Overall weight in the end, we've taken weight off, and we've obviously put weight in for the powertrain. So we're still working on that final figure.
That's got to be a big complicated part of it is weight distribution, I suppose, in terms of when you're adding batteries that tend to be quite heavy or any kind of hybrid technology. Is that anything from a design point of view you need to consider? We're going to try and move a little bit further along the car. I keep bouncing into this poor gentleman. We'll come round the side here. But for example, oh, that would be there you go. That'd be fantastic. We're going to try and open up. Wow, I've just seen the seats for the first time, and I'm in love already. How much interior-wise has changed over a standard Q60?
So the IP, what we call the IP instrument panel, is from standard Q60. We've retrimmed the wheel. You can see the yellow upright tag. We have carbon-backed seats, which we've retrimmed. They're laser etched, so they're kind of hinting at this electrification. You see this kind of tech look. We've stripped the rear bench out, as you can see, so that's carbon fibre panels. They have to be removed quickly because there's a lot of electronics and all things under there, so for maintenance. Basically, it's still stock though. You still get the feeling you're in a Q60. Center console, you'll see some controls, which I love, which are actually related. We took the data from the Formula One wheel, the toggle switches. We have 12 control settings there for the drivetrain, and they're directly linked to the steering wheel controls on a Formula One car. So subtly changed, but actually, if it was your car, you would definitely notice the changes.
Yeah, it looks very purposeful. If you can see inside us here, that switchgear in particular, really exciting. But the seats, I've noticed a fire extinguisher, which hence is the sort of racetrack purpose as well. It's a very exciting environment to look at, and I'm sure it would feel quite special if you were sitting in it. They've also opened up the bonnet here, so I'd love to come around the front and have a quick look at the where the business happens, I suppose. Now we can see those elements, those fins you were kind of talking about earlier,
Yes.
all connected to a sort of a bigger carbon fibre piece. Is that just coincidence, or is that doing something work-wise as well?
This element across the car is something we call a rad core. It's part of the structure that everything comes off. So the bumper, the lights all hang off it. It's attached to the subframe at the front. We've used carbon fibre again, so we've stripped some panels off. Carbon fibre is lightweight, and as I said, it deflects the air out from the engine bay. So the turbos are tucked down underneath the engine, so there's a lot of thermal heat coming up. So these basically use the low pressure on top of the hood at speed to pull the air out. So it's a functional part, and also covering up some of the more raw elements, if you like.
It's subtle, but the yellow sort of pinstriping along a lot of parts of the car, I think, is really fantastic. Was that something you wanted to do, just to pop out certain elements? Well,
It's Renault. This is actually the Formula One yellow from the car, so it's a direct visual cue to the team's work on the car. So you can really see the partnership between Renault F1 and Infiniti.
it's nice just to highlight some of those accents. Yeah, it looks absolutely stunning. I think if you turned up to a car show with this, you'd win hands down by popping open that bonnet.
See, maybe if you turn the camera, you can see what we call the spider, the structure underneath. So this has all been redone, thinned out, all part of the weight saving that's going on. So really quite an extensive amount of work.
For those of you asking about weight questions, that gives you a bit of an idea as to how much work is going on under the skin of this car in terms of weight. I'm going to do one final check for those Facebook questions. Oh, here we go. PT Taylor's asked, will there be a Q50 Black S, do you think?
I'd love to do that.
I'm sure you must be chomping at the bit now to try and do more.
Yes, I mean, let's get this one up and running. I mean, Black S can be, as we said, it could be applied to our other models. These are ongoing discussions that we're having in the company. Obviously, it's becoming very successful. So, yeah, it's definitely something we could look at going forwards. Yeah.
Matt, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time and answer the questions. I'll let you answer some other people's questions. I'm sure there are lots here. So thank you for joining us very much. Everybody else who's been tuning in and watching, thank you so much for joining us here in Paris for the launch of the Project Black S. I'm hugely excited by this car. I want to go and check it out now in even more detail. Thank you for those of you that submitted your questions for the Facebook Live. Thanks you once again for tuning in. Sorry.